Thanks for stopping by another episode of the Prospects Corner presented by the Traveling Hoopers. Today, let's go ahead and continue with our Tier 2 teams. We have Oak Hill Academy coming up, and our first guy off the board is going to be Caleb Foster, the event's leading scorer at 21 a game. At 6'4", he has great size for both guard positions. As a playmaker, he really understands moving different defensive pieces, getting people out of position so teammates are more open for shots. And that frequently happened at this event, leading to Foster almost averaging 5 assists. But where you can really see his vision is in the open court, where in transition play, he averaged just under 2 steals a game. Foster got really hot from 3 at this event, shooting 8 for 15 from 3. At St. James, he shot 8 from 30 over 7 games. That's a sample size of 16 of 45, which is just under 38%, which is a really good showing and shows that he's gotten better over the time since St. James, which was about in February. He understands how to use the pick and roll to his advantage. He also has a really mature game, so anytime he sees a good scoring position or he knows he's in a spot where he can get his bucket, he's going to take advantage of it, especially if you're a smaller guard and he's at the elbow. That's his pull-up bread and butter all day. Foster even picked up a couple blow-bys in the half-court game against Matthew Cleveland, who's going to Florida State. His hesitation is really deadly, and that change of speed out of things really gets him the space that he needs. Next up is unsigned senior Jalen Ricks, who stands at 6'7". At 6'7" with really long arms, Jalen Ricks is one of the best 2021 free agents that we still have available. Ricks didn't shoot well at Geico's, but between his time at Geico's and St. James, he is a 40% three-point shooter. So the defense, the shooting, it's all there. Plus, he rebounds and is a really scrappy guy. Sneaking into the 2022 class, we look at MJ Rice, who scored 149 total points in 7 games over at St. James for 19 points. And at Geico's, he was the second leading scorer behind his teammate Caleb Foster for 20.5 points. During that time, he showed that he's an efficient scorer with a great combination of size, skill, and athleticism. He had a dunk party against Montverde, which is saying a lot considering how big they are at every position, and no one really gets to overpower them in the middle, especially not with Jalen Duren on the court. Because of Rice's body, he can really give and take contact. There's even a moment where Derek Whitehead, who's one of the biggest guards we have in the 2022 class, came barreling right at Rice, and Rice did not budge. He has great body control in the air, and as a power guard, he gets to the line and he's going to probably have a mismatch most of the time when he's on the court. Going back into the 2021 class, we look at Cameron Carter, the explosive athletic guard who recently signed to Mississippi State. He finished well around the rim, especially above it. And in limited minutes, he showed that he's a really good playmaker. More to see out of this guy when he goes to Mississippi State. Our last guy out of Oak Hill is going to be AJ Williams. He's a super skilled shooter who at 6'2", 6'3" can play both guard positions, but gives you a lot of shooting from whichever wing you decide to put him at. Then we get into the IMG roster, who holds one of the best point guards in the 2022 class, Jaden Bradley. During the event, he averaged 16 points and 9 assists, showing off blazing speed, and when I'm talking about, it's crazy out of his hesitation. In this game, we only saw years 1 and 2, which were still really hard to stop. At St. James, we saw the 3rd year where he was playing fast the entire time and no one could really stay in front of him. A part of his game that I really like is his awareness on both sides of the court. Because he's so fast, when he's engaged, he can get in those passing lanes easily and go convert on the other side. On the offensive end, it just goes into his passing, where he has really good vision and can find a lot of things in the half court. Thanks to his sturdier build, he can take a lot of contact and be just fine. He's one of the quickest guys who also produces with the ball in his hands. I like Bradley a lot. Next up, we have one of the guys heading Michigan's top recruiting class, Moussa Diabate. And as a big, he has a lot of energy and has quick feet. We're talking about one of the better defensive prospects that I've seen out of this 2021 class. He was the primary defender on Carlisle, who's an electric guard out of Milton High School. He can really move his feet on the perimeter defensively, and on the block offensively, he's quick and he's physical. In the paint, Diabate is a good rim protector. Diabate rebounded and showed great effort. Diabate always gives energy and effort on the court. He actually had several games where he walked away with several blocks and steals, and that happened in several games between St. James and Geico's. Next up is the steal that Indiana and Mike Woodson got in Tamar Bates. At 6'6", there's energy, there's leadership, there's athleticism. Every time there was a dead ball, Bates was rallying his young teammates together, getting them their plans and whatever else needs. He has energy, he talks stuff on the court, he shot well. For a guy who didn't need a ton of shots, he scored in double figures in all but one of the 7 games that I've watched of him this year. The jumper looks great. He's good in transition. He's an amazing athlete. And most importantly, in a transition game, he can also make plays. Next up is going to be one of the most ridiculous prospects we had at the entire event, IMG's Jarris Walker. He is a tremendous athlete, especially for someone who's that big at 6'8". We're talking about more of a power forward body than we're looking at a forward. He even shows some ball skills by hitting some pull-up mid-range jumpers and even going behind the back for a score. He has a patient game on offense, but defense is where he really shines. We're talking about a guy who can switch between Zachary Clements, who's going to KU, and the #1 point guard in the 2021 class, Kennedy Chandler, and get a stop. Walker looked much improved from his time at St. James, where he didn't really get a lot of minutes. Here, his production almost doubled in the time that he got in the court. To boot, Walker works well as an on-ball or off-ball guy. He's not a bad passer. When we're talking about a cutter, you can't do much to stop him when he's in movement. Our last guy for IMG is going to be Eric Daly Jr. We're talking about a super athlete at 6'8". And this one looks a little bit more like a track star than anything. This guy has a great build. He's electric in the open court. He makes good passes. He has good reads. He shot really well over the past 2 games where he was 6 of 13 from 3. And in the 5 games between Geico's and St. James, he showed that he has a really good stroke. He's a decent playmaker off the drive, and I love anyone that can get people involved during the transition game. Finishing up our Tier 2 teams is going to be Arizona Compass Prep. First guy up is going to be Josh Uduje, who at 6'4" is a really good defender. I'm talking about a solid defensive prospect who gives energy, and at 6'4", he has a 6'9" wingspan. Our next guy up is going to be Adrame Diongu. The athletic 7-footer averaged 4 blocks and 1.5 steals over his 2 games. He rebounds well, especially those offensive boards. For my money, Diongu is one of the better defensive prospects, especially as a big man. He had recovery blocks. He pinned a shot to the backboard. And most importantly, even though he's skinny, he can hold his ground already. And he did that to force a turnover over Duren. To boot, he's a really good finisher. In 2 games, Glenn Taylor really proved that he can be a 6'6" pinball when he's on the court. He takes and gives out contact religiously, and that's something that gets him to the line often. Against Waxatch, that physicality got him a lot of offensive boards, and that is for a team that is physical and big in itself. AJ Storr had what most would call a quiet performance at Geico's. In the 2 games, what we did notice was his massive physicals. At about 6'7", he is a burly guy. To boot, he made several threes, especially against Waxatch, where he made 3, including 2 corner threes. In Alden Applewhite, we have another Mississippi State guy. This young man was relatively quiet against Waxatch, but he rebounded, shooting 3 of 8 from 3 against Montverde. At only 6'7", Applewhite did his best to slow down Duren early, especially getting a lot of deflections with his long arms and energy on that end of the court. Applewhite showed really good awareness on the defensive end, especially when he was locked in. He also showed the ability to hit shots off movement, one with a transition 3, and the other being a behind the back pull-up jumper. AZ Compass star Ty Washington didn't get off to a hot start, but what does matter is he finished the game with 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists against Waxatch. Things like this just kind of go to show that he can kind of get his bucket whenever he wants, and he understands how. He shows he's a decent athlete, but at 6'4" with a 6'9" wingspan, all of that can change. Washington can really score the ball. Between his floaters and his jump shot, everything works. Even in the face of a hard double team closing out, he still made shots. Whenever that second defender was called, he was looking for opportunities to score, whether it was him or his teammates. He was always looking to get that ball moving it into the hole. In his game against Montverde, he showed that he has a massive takeover. The game was only won by 2 points, and truly, if it was not for Washington having a super game where he could find other guys, show that he can really have moves off of hezzies, the creativity he shows when he's ready to score, Washington's going to be a really good pickup wherever he goes, and I think at this point the leader is going to be Kentucky. All right, with 2 teams left, we get into our Tier 3 competitors. First one up is going to be Sunrise Christian Academy, and I have to start off by talking about Kennedy Chandler, who I believe is far and beyond the best point guard in the country, and he showed that by dominating every single top tier point guard he's had to play at these Geicos and St. James events. He's just a really bad man. He's almost Chris Paul light to me. I saw a few guys say TJ Ford. I didn't really watch TJ Ford like that, so I can't give you that one. But his defensive awareness and awareness period of where everyone is on the court is just ridiculous. He picked up steals against Prolific Prep just by watching how their offenses ran. He sat on one play where Bona was getting the entry pass, and from the left side of the court where Bona was receiving the ball on the right side, Chandler saw Uzan coming up the court, followed him, left his man, who did not know Chandler was gone, came away, got the steal. He would later get a strip on Biddle, and then blocked Todorovic. There's just not a lot this young man can't do. I really like his speed and quickness out of the pick and roll, but it does not matter. If you 1v1 him, he's going to get to the basket and he's going to finish. He's tough, he's a competitor. Just a few months ago, he hit a half-court shot to beat Montverde. This kid has it all. Rick Barnes has got a dude. Tennessee is going to be really fun to watch next year. And to boot, at only 6'1", he's a really good defender. He fights over screens and he rebounds well for the position too, all because he understands and is aware of everything that happens on the court, especially where the ball is. Next up is going to be our guy Kendall Brown, who is going to Baylor University next year at 6'8", probably even a little bit taller, because when he stood next to Bona, they were eye level with each other. He shows a really good floater game in the mid-range. Because he's so athletic, he finishes above the rim, blur in transition, and because of that, he picks up a lot of steals in the passing lane. He's definitely more of a transition scorer, but because of that athleticism, he can drive and make that athleticism work in the half court. With that being said, Brown definitely needs to tighten up his handle, but because he's so explosive, when he does try moves, he creates a ton of space. Once he figures out how to slow down and really control the game, Brown's probably going to be a dude. He even showed that in flashes here where his drives had gravity, sucking other people to him, where then he could find kickouts and hug other people in stride. Next up is going to be our guy Grady Dick, who at 6'6" is going to be a big shooter who's going to play at the University of Kansas once he graduates. Because of the size and the athletic base, he reminds me a lot of Steve Mikhailuk. While Grady didn't shoot well from this event, at St. James he was 10 of 26 from the three-point line, which shows that he can really be a sniper. He's also a really smart player who plays off 2 feet, leading that jump stop, and fortunately that turned into a lot of free throw attempts for this young man. Another Kansas commit that we'll see a little sooner before Dick is going to be Zach Clements, who at 6'10" is an extremely mobile forward. Over the 3 games he played at Geicos, he only shot threes in 2 of them, leading to him shooting 4 of 6 from 3-point for the entire event. Clements showed college range on that jumper and the ability to defend. He even picked up a block on Duren's fadeaway, which is pretty impressive. Shows his length and his awareness in the post. Sunrise Christian also holds another one of my favorite bigs, whose name is Kenny Poto. He's currently a Minnesota commit, and as a guy who's 7 foot, he can really run the floor and bomb away from the 3-point line. He shot 3 of 8 from 3 at Geicos, 5 of 13 from St. James, which makes him a 8 of 21, which is around 36% from 3, which is a good mark for a 7-footer in high school. Thanks to his size, he matched up well in all 3 meetings against Duren. He's also a really good post defender and a surprisingly good passer. He had 7 assists in those 3 games and will always compete on the boards, whether it's on offense or defense. Another guy I want to add from Sunrise Christian is going to be Willie Lightfoot. He didn't play much in Geico's, but at St. James, especially in times where Kennedy Chandler was not on floor, Willie Lightfoot showed the goods. He's super quick, and at 5'9", wherever there is space, this kid is going to make a jump shot. We're talking about deep range. We're talking about in the paint. We're talking about on the wing. This kid can absolutely shoot it. Finishing up our tier 3 teams and being crowned as Geioco National champion is going to be Montverde. Our first guy up is going to be Dariq Whitehead, who I believe the G League should go ahead and sign a contract with today. I know that's saying a lot, but with his physical tools and athleticism, Dariq Whitehead is just different from a lot of the other guards we have in this class. He looked way more locked in on D than he did while he was at St. James during Geico's, and he has all of the tools to be a plus on that end. We're talking about a guy who blew by every single closeout that was put in front of him at the St. James tournament. During Geico's, he did much of the same. He's above the rim finisher. He doesn't show that he can really shoot the 3, but when you can beat every single closeout in front of you, there's not a need to take it yet. He only shot 5 threes through 10 games. While Whitehead didn't shoot many threes, he did show that he had a solid pull-up jumper, especially when he's going left. Our next guy up is going to be out of the 2022 class, and again, another guy that I think the G League should go ahead and offer him as soon as he is eligible. He is a double-double threat every single night. He rebounds offensively and defensively. We're talking about a guy who averaged about 9 boards a game, 3 of them being offensive. He had several games where he had 4 or more offensive boards. This guy is just a physical killer. He has touch. He knows how to pass. He's patient. And when he passes out of the post, we're not just talking about cutters that are right next to him. He will throw the ball to the opposite corner. He has vision like that. He's a really solid dude. He's physical. He showed that he plays with an edge. There was a time where he got tangled up during the Arizona Compass game, and I kid you not, for like the next couple possessions, he just manhandled everyone to show that he is the number 2 prospect in such a loaded class. Duren's go-to post move is going to be a right-handed hook. The big man averaged 2 blocks a game, and it really looks like the only thing that can slow down Duren, no, it's not a double team. It's having someone who is going to be just as big or bigger than him physically one-on-one. Then from there, you still have to worry about the passing. We jump into another guy who's powering Michigan's #1 overall recruiting class with Caleb Houston. At 6'8", he has the size to play on the perimeter and in the post, but the perimeter is really where his bread is going to be buttered. He's a consistent shooter. I'm talking about St. James, Geico's. He made threes essentially. Part of his game that I feel goes under radar is that he is actually a really good passer off the wing. Once he takes you off the bounce, it's not really his scoring that you have to worry about. It's him finding the open man once the defense moves. Houston has been a consistent and efficient scorer over the games that I've seen. And plus, he's a consistent rebounder who's always going to give you about 6 a game. With that next guy, we go back to the 2022 class with Malik Renault, who is the big lefty out of Miami. When I tell you everything he does is going to be left-handed, it's going to be smooth, it's going to be efficient, it's going to be strong, and he's going to make the shots. He's a great pick and roll partner who's always looking to dive and sets really tough screens. Again, in only limited minutes, Malik produces as a rebounder and a scorer. In adding to the history at Baylor is going to be Langston Love, who's probably one of the most surgical scorers I've seen at the AAU in high school levels. This kid kind of just knows where his bread is buttered and how to get to it. Because he's strong and physical, when he takes bumps or gives contact, it doesn't really impact where he's going or how he's doing it. He showed that he can be a really good shooter at St. James, but at Geico's, not so much. But that scoring and knowing where to be and being a good positional defender all translates. Our last guy for Montverde is going to be Ryan Nembhard. I'll say it again, Ryan Nembhard is a name that you will have to learn. He's going to Creighton, and he needs a big bump in the final rankings. I've seen him compete against some of the top point guards at the position, and he's won those battles all but twice. Both of those losses were to Kennedy Chandler, who is just an unstoppable force at the high school level. He's super quick. He understands how to get teammates involved. He will run the offense smoothly. He doesn't need a ton of shots, but he can score. One thing that he doesn't do often is shoot the three, but we're looking at a really efficient guy. Through 3 games at Geico's, we're talking about 5 of 7 from 3. And then through 7 games at St. James, we're talking 5 of 15 for a total of 10 of 21 over 10 games. That's almost a 50% shooter from 3-point line. He's also a really good assist man. During those 3 games, he led the entire tournament with 7 assists. As one of the fastest ball handler and live dribble passers in the entire class of 2021, Ryan deserves much more respect than he's giving, and we're going to see why in that next year where his career starts at Creighton. And who knows, maybe by year 3, this is the starting point guard who's making some noise in a NCAA tournament. Hey, thanks for sticking around for another episode of the Prospects Corner. We will be doing these more often throughout the summer. Thank you for sticking around. Again, have a great day.
Once again, Calvin McGowan, hope you enjoyed yourself. If you are watching on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, leave something in the comments. You can also listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. If you made it this far, once again, thank you. I hope you got a lot done of whatever it was you were working on while listening to this. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.